Evaluating a film franchise requires looking at many factors. However, no matter which angle you view it from, the Conjuring universe can still be considered a success. In terms of quality, James Wan's opening film remains one of the best horror movies of the 21st century. In terms of revenue, the expanding spin-offs have brought in over $2 billion. And of course, in terms of cultural reach, it's hard to find anyone who hasn't heard of Annabelle or Valak. Impressive as it is, there's one thing we must admit. The Conjuring universe has been declining for a long time. Fans have good reason to worry about the quality of the sequel, Last Rites, especially since it's directed by Michael Shaves, known for horror films that are, at best, below average. To make matters worse, this fourth installment holds a particularly important role as the final chapter in the journey of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. After 12 years of documenting cases and helping families afflicted by demons, the finale not only requires a worthy case, but also a heartfelt farewell to the contributions of actors Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. Time is not on its side, circumstances aren't favorable, and even human effort doesn't align. So will The Conjuring. Last Rites wrap up the most successful horror franchise in history with dignity, or will it sink further, becoming yet another billion-dollar Hollywood franchise drained of ideas? Let's uncover the truth in today's video. Hello to all viewers of FayFilm. Here are our thoughts on the blockbuster The Conjuring, Last Rites. Set after 1986, we continue following the journey of exorcists Ed and Lorraine Warren. After their life-or-death battle with Satan's disciple in the previous film, Ed still hasn't fully recovered from his stroke. Realizing their age and declining health, Lorraine decides it's time for both of them to retire. Judy, their once little daughter, has grown up and is preparing for her own life. Remaining entangled with the underworld forever isn't good. However, evil never rests. In Pennsylvania, the SM family of 8 becomes the next victims of strange supernatural occurrences. They experience a series of unusual accidents, and, in an inexplicable way, the case ties directly to the past of Ed and Lorraine. More precisely, the demon this time is connected to Judy. Unable to let their daughter be harmed, the couple returns once again to use their abilities to fight dark forces. First, we must admit that the script of the fourth film introduces many promising directions. Focusing on Judy Warren, now grown, immediately hits my curiosity. What does it feel like to be born and raised in a family where your parents work in such an extraordinary field? If you recall, in the first two Conjuring films, Judy was occasionally teased by spirits attached to the artifacts her parents brought home. This would certainly impact her psychological development. By digging into this emotional trauma, whether the writers choose to make Judy follow in her parents' footsteps or reject their legacy, both paths would create interesting conflicts. Lorraine has always carried a necklace with Judy's picture since the beginning. Now is the perfect time to develop Judy's storyline. The couple themselves also face relatable struggles. Ed still wants to travel and investigate like in their younger days, while Lorraine and age no longer allow that. She wants a quiet life, wants to watch Judy grow up, wants to stay away from demons. Not to mention that by 1986, their public reputation is no longer what it used to be. Their lectures aren't well received, which especially affects Ed. To add to that, Judy brings a boyfriend home to meet them. Everything seems to remind him that he's now an older man with graying hair, his career well past its peak. A subtle but compelling tension forms within the small family, very fitting for a final installment. Overall, after the first act, I was fully drawn into the directions the film promised. However, quite unexpectedly, the solid foundations begin to crumble in the second act. Director Michael Chaves, after a forgettable Conjuring 3, still seems unable to distinguish himself, once again revealing weaknesses in both filmmaking and storytelling. First, the biggest issue. Last Rites is not scary. It has creepy sounds, bloody scenes, and vicious ghosts, but it's simply not frightening. This isn't just the result of outdated jump scares or demon designs inferior to Annabelle or Valak, but also a lack of finesse in pacing. Compare this to the first two Conjuring films, the best in the franchise. Back then, James Wan was willing to tell a slow-burning story to ensure tension steadily increased. At first, The ghost only teased the family with light tricks, like pulling feet, shutting doors, or lurking in the shadows. These caused unease rather than harm, making the family frightened but still dismissive and hesitant to seek help. Gradually, the intensity increased, hair pulling, dragging victims across the house, causing physical harm. Only then did the demon's true intent surface, turning the final act into the most stressful and terrifying part. Failing to capture this rhythm is what made the third film bland. Remember how it showcased a whole action-packed sequence right at the beginning? The spirit possessing a boy, twisting limbs and jumping around, dust flying everywhere like a supernatural action film? Because of that, later scenes in The Conjuring 3 couldn't raise the tension any further. The same mistake appears in Last Rites. Lacking build-up, the dark force displays maximum violence right from the start, throwing deadly objects at victims, leaping out from corners, choking people, inflicting physical pain. Honestly, if you've already seen a girl vomit an entire basin of blood, how effective can normal jump scares be afterward? The only creative scare I remember is the ghost repeatedly unplugging the phone. As for the finale, nothing memorable. Predictable, old-fashioned, overly reliant on CGI. Even scenes meant to resemble The Shining, like blood flooding the floor or demons powerful enough to burn crosses, somehow feel less haunting than a simple foot pull or hand clap. Secondly, I personally dislike how the script resolves its conflicts. After building a promising foundation, Judy's development stalls. She gets many scare scenes, but they contribute little to her character arc. How does she truly feel about the heightened senses she inherited from her mother? Does she blame Lorraine for raising her in an environment full of spirits? Ultimately, how does she feel about her family's career? None of these compelling questions are explored. Despite being a special character, Judy ends the film no different from any other possessed girl in previous films, cursed, manipulated, and saved. This results in a villain whose personal grudge against the Warrens, initially introduced grandly, ends up lackluster. I practically forgot the cursed mirror storyline the moment I left the theater. Of course, my disappointment largely stems from my high expectations for Judy. As mentioned, I believed she was the key to making The Conjuring 4 feel fresh while keeping Ed and Lorraine central. Judy has always been the most important thing influencing her parents' decisions. If you notice, this is the first time Judy witnesses her parents directly resolve a possession case, and her first time seeing how meaningful their work is to families in need. Judy had the potential to give this fourth installment a standout identity, so wasting such a long-established, meaningful character is truly unfortunate. As for the SM family or supporting characters, nothing notably good or bad. That said, if someone argued all other elements must take a back seat, I wouldn't disagree, because the ending alone is enough to redeem the chaotic second act. The case wraps up quickly, once the heartfelt tribute to Conjuring fans appears. I won't spoil it, but simply put, it's a fitting farewell to Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga after more than a decade. Despite script flaws and the universe's decline, Ed and Lorraine remain the shining core. The Conjuring doesn't live on just because of Valak or Annabelle, it's Ed and Lorraine who keep viewers invested. Their bond has never once felt forced. After so many hardships together, their connection feels incredibly real. Even though I don't like cheap nostalgia bait, I must admit the ending left me more emotional than expected. It feels like a thank you to those who've supported The Conjuring from the beginning, and a beautiful goodbye to two characters who now hold an irreplaceable place in pop culture. They've spent their lives helping others, and this ending is well-deserved. Ironically, The Conjuring Last Rites is quite memorable if you consider it a family drama. After leaving the theater, the montage of Ed and Lorraine lingered in my mind, making me a bit sad their story had reached its conclusion. But as a horror blockbuster with emphasis on horror, it's only slightly better than the 2021 third film. The film lacks subtlety and scares and loses its unique identity. Overall, if you're a fan of The Conjuring, you'll still have a memorable experience. Ideally, you should rewatch the earlier films because there are many Easter eggs referencing old lines and characters. And that's Faye Fim's review of the fourth installment in the Conjuring franchise. If you agree or disagree, leave a comment below so we can discuss. Despite its flaws, it's still a decent entertainment piece to unwind after a long day. And surprisingly, you may leave the theater feeling nostalgic rather than scared. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the movie.